Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Amsbury. I'm the Friendly Neighborhood Help Desk guy, and this is SharePoint Oregon.gov V4 training concerning the HomePage components in the newer V4 look and feel sites. The objectives for today's class is so that when we're done, you're able to establish or change the splash image for your homepage, so that you can easily edit the site title, so that you can manage your carousel content successfully, edit your mission statement, and manage your task boxes. So the first thing we need to do is all get on the same page with nomenclature. On your Oregon.gov V4 homepage, there's several sections and characteristics of the page. The most prominent being the splash image, which is outlined in red here. It's a large image that is of dimensions 1,280 pixels by 350 pixels. When you go about your migration, we will ask you to limit this image to 100K or less. We need to, there's a lot of features in V4, and so we need to keep the overhead as low as possible. Something striking and colorful and contrasty is going to fit the bill here, and also be easier to read over, because as you can see, your agency title and your carousel there that need to be read on top of this image. And so something simple, something striking, and something kind of contrasty is good. So that's the splash image. The next feature that we'll be talking about is the site title, outlined in red here. That's actually a site setting that we'll look at. It's easy to change, but only site owners will be able to do it. If your permissions are limited to a normal contributor, you won't have the ability to get in and set that setting to change it. And these kinds of changes, the site title change, shouldn't happen very often. You know what your agency or what your program is called, and that doesn't change very often. So when it needs to happen, it's nice to be able to know how to do it, but it shouldn't come up much. The next feature is the carousel. Some folks relate this as parallel to the featured content in the old V3 site. It's similar, but it's very, very simple compared to that. It's list-driven, so it's real easy to manage, and it should be short, sweet, and to the point. Next is the mission statement. Now, this area of the page is a simple, rich text area. It can be formatted lightly, but keep in mind that it needs to be fairly simple so that the readability and usability of your site is still very easy. The mission statement can be turned on and off very easily, so it can be used for announcements and things like that. It's just a section of your page that can have attention drawn to it if you want it to. And it's very easy to leave it completely unused as well. We'll go over that. And finally, the task boxes are probably the most useful part of the homepage layout. Each task box can be related to a different subject, and the links under the image or the heading would be the related links to whatever your heading is. The images here should be, as you can see on there, 370 by 206 pixels to fit that rectangle perfectly, and they should be under 25K. The images need to be, you need to kind of think about these images, especially if you don't want them to be interfered with by that blue bar. So they need to be oriented and centered in ways that make sense for your use. And then the features we'll discuss are, of course, the home page itself, we'll get into site settings. We will look at a directory or a library called Site Collection Images, and we'll get into the carousel list and the task box list today. Let's talk about this splash image, this big blue area of my page here. To reiterate, it should be something fairly simple. We're looking for 1,280 pixels by 350 pixels, and we're looking for less than 100K. When your site is new, your subsite, if you have a new project or something going up, it won't have any splash image. It'll have a placeholder that will describe that 1280 by 350. It kind of like this does down here where it says 370 by 306. You'll have something similar to that up here. It says 1280 by 350. And you will have a link. I'm going to show you. I'm going to enter my page as an editor. And once it's open for editing, you will see this link right here. Click here to insert a picture from SharePoint. That's the one you're going to want to use. So that's how your home page will look when you first go into it. And every time you go into it for editing, you're not going to see the splash image, but you will see this link. You can be assured that your splash image is still there. If you don't do anything, and you go to edit some other areas on the page and check it in, this splash image is not going to go away. I'll demonstrate that now. I'm going to check this page in. I just made some text edits there. I'll check it in. And you can see the splash image is still there. Just because we couldn't see it in editing does not mean that it went away and we have to reestablish it every time. You don't have to do that. I'm going to enter for editing one more time. And I'm going to go ahead and click. This opens a conversation window for the splash image and allows you to either, if you know where it is, you can certainly enter it. Let's say maybe you've got a series of splash images that you want to rotate through from time to time, or maybe it's a seasonal thing or something. That's all well and good. We trust that you will keep the 100 kilobyte size recommendation or limit in mind. And let's say you want to go to splash _A. You can do it just that easily if you know what your URLs are, just typing the new URL in there. Please do include alt text. It has been recently brought to my attention how vitally important alternate text is for images on our site. We have a lot of folks who are challenged in one way or another and use an alternate method to view our site other than the typical Internet Explorer, Google, Chrome, or Firefox, things like that. They use assistive technology to view our site, and when they can't see an image, they need to know it's there, and they really appreciate knowing what that image is about. The alt text is all they have to go on, specifically for the visually impaired folks, blind or legally blind, where they really can't see that well. The alternate text is vital for them. Otherwise, their technology just will kind of breeze over it and say image. You do not have to mess with the layout here. It's going to be a default layout. If you do find a way to mess with this, it's possible that it could offset this splash image and make your page have some large blank areas, or squash your image to a uncomfortable or unattractive state. So leave the layout as default, and the size should be default image size. This section of the page has been coded, so to speak, to accept that 1280 by 350 size, and the page and image and everything will be responsive together with that size image. Again, if you mess with the size here, it could throw that off and cause that image not to scale correctly with the browser width. So once you have your URL established and your splash image, your alternate text entered, you can click OK. And alternatively, you can browse for your image. And these kinds of things we want to keep outside of the images library, because you may have an awful lot of authors going into images library to add things or change things. And we really want to protect the homepage images. You don't want something unexpected going there, and you don't want it to all of a sudden disappear on accident. So what we recommend is that you keep these kinds of images, the ones that are critical to a page layout, in the Site Collection Images library. And I believe that every V4 site is delivered with a Site Collection Images library at the root level. And you can certainly add that at lower levels if you want to. This one happens to be in a subsite. And so if we look at Site Collection Images, the only one I have in there for splash image is this one, so we'll just pick the same one. But it's just as easy as clicking on any other image and clicking OK, establishing that as your image, and then OK out of the dialog box. This gives you a thumbnail of the image. And again, when you check in this page, you will see the splash image that you chose take its place. That is the splash image. Next in line is the site title. This is a site setting. Not everybody's going to have access to change these words. This is going to be for site collection owners. Site collection owner is a user that has full access or full control by one of their group memberships. Typically, that is the site collection owners group, whatever that may be. And so to change this, we're going to go to our Site Actions menu and move into Site Settings. And that particular setting is controlled under Look and Feel by the title, description, and icon setting. And it is simply the site title. If we change the verbiage here and click OK, that changes. You can see that it already took effect. We went from Help Me to Session here. This is your site name. And so if we use that link and go back to our home page, the net result is that this word, this text, has changed. That change does not require publishing. So if I move out here if I remove the authoring from the URL and just go to the staging live site, for lack of a better word, we have session having taken the place already, and I did not go through any check-in or publishing or anything. It just happens. If you edit a site setting, it just happens. So there's no control, there's no oversight or anything like that. That's why that's reserved for site collection owners. Again, this opportunity or this requirement to change a site title won't come up often, but when it does, it's nice to know how to do it. By the way, it's worth mentioning that when we changed the agency name on the page, the session, we did not change the URL. And so the URL is still intact. If you have to change your agency name, your links will not be affected at all. Other people's links to the site will not be affected. It is only the display name of the site that will be affected. It does not affect the URL or links at all. Next up the carousel. This is the first of our somewhat complicated, but not really. It's just a web part, and the web part draws from a list. So it's two pieces. They work together. Not really a big issue. So when we look at our carousel, we see that we have three possibilities here because I have called three items into the carousel area. If I had called 4 in with the web part, and we'll open all this all up in just a few minutes. If I called 4 in, there would be another link here. If I call 5, there would be another link here. These will expand as they need to. And if you put too many links here, they'll try to make 2 rows of it, and it looks pretty messy. So I would definitely limit this to a number of links that will retain 1 row here. By default, they do not automatically rotate. That is best. Automatic rotation of anything on a page, it used to be kind of cute, but now it's just considered sloppy. And so the preference is to have it not automatically rotate. And if somebody is interested and wants to go to story number 2 or story number 3, they certainly can click there. Let people ask for information. Don't force it on them. And you can see that this is very simple. There's no text here. It's not like the old featured content where you've got an image and a title and text and a link and the whole thing. You have a title for a very short blurb of information. You have a link to whatever, if that's a page, if it's a document, if it's somebody else's site or a related site or something, that's fine. And then you have the individual links here, and you have the arrows to be able to navigate it. Let's go look at the list that drives Carousel. Site action, I'm going to look at all site content. I'm going to look for the list called Carousel items. We open that list, and we can see that we have 3 items there. If you open one of these items, it's just a normal list item. If you're maintaining a home page, you probably have some experience with list items. We need the title. We need the link where that square link was going to point to, and the description of the link. All these fields, in order to be complete, should be filled in. And then your tags. Notice tags are comma delimited, not space delimited. So putting a space between those words is not going to do it for you. You will need a comma there. And what that means is that the application will recognize 2 words that are next to each other as being separate entities if there's a comma between them. If there is no comma between them, it will regard it as a single entity. And if you set a list to call items based on the tags that were entered, that will make a big difference for you. And so you do definitely want to include those commas to separate your tags. And then active, that's a shortcut where you can add or remove list items from your carousel very quickly. So if you have seasonal things, if you have, let's say we're having a particularly harsh winter and we have building closures that you want to put a link up or a carousel item up on your home page that has links to all the building closures and times and expectations and all that, you can check and uncheck this, and it will very quickly add or remove this particular list item from the carousel without having to go into the web part and redo the web part setting. So all of the entries are important. Sort order, of course, is just which order they're going to show up in. Once your carousel item has been established, you click Save. and it goes. And I'm going to add just a new one as an example here. Notice there was no way to put a picture in here because there's no pictures involved. So that's the list. It's just like any other list, add, subtract. It's got its own unique columns that need to be filled in. Now let's go back to the home page and take a look at the web part that controls this. And I'm going to open it for editing again. And you'll notice that this is a web part surrounded by blue. And when you hover over it, you get this little bitty downward-facing arrow. Use this little bitty downward-facing arrow to select Edit Web Part. This is how you're going to manage how this thing displays. Web parts always appear, or the settings always appear way over here on the right. That's just the way SharePoint does it. And we're most interested right now in the query section of this web part. And expand that. The first thing we need to do is decide where we're going to show our items in the web part from. So are we going to display items from every site in the site collection? That can get interesting and messy. It reacted to my selection. In that case, we have the ability to choose from all of these different lists from all of the different subsites in the site collection. And so what that does is it opens up our ability to show this stuff. And so what we want to do is actually, we want to leave it at show items from the following list. And what that's going to be is our carousel items list. But notice that this right now is pulling from the parent site. See, site template, and then right into lists here. A little hard for you to see probably on your screens, but there is no help in the middle here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect this. I'm going to change, and I'll do it through Browse. I'm going to change the list that this carousel pulls from. The way I'm going to do that is go from where it is now at this is the top level agency from the agency name. And carousel, this is the one it's at right now. I'm going to drill down into my newly renamed session site and call on the carousel items list under that site. And click OK. And the web part will respond. That's what this regeneration of the page is it's responding to what I just entered so that my next selection will be appropriate. The list type is unclickable. That's not a valid selection for this. Content type, we want list content type, and we want types, items of the type item, redundancy there. We want the item type from the list. You can assign different item types in some kinds of sites. Child content types don't. We're not going to include columns in our individual, in our ability to display individual things. We're not going to include columns. We want the whole list item to be displayed. Audience filtering is not going to be used. That's more for the intranet side of things. And additional filters, this is going to be where we get into which items are displayed and which ones are not. And so what we want here is that our tag contain, and for the most part we want it for this site, demo is the tag. And that active is equal to yes. So what we want is to look for the tag demo and that the item is in fact active. And that's a good default set of criteria to look for. And then we're going to go or here because we don't want to have and nothing, because that should give us a null set. So we don't want that. Now, notice what this is here. If I click OK, this will pull from a completely different list than it has been. And you can see that based on our criteria, we only have 2 items that are being displayed in this list. So our content of this carousel is completely changed because we're pulling list items from an entirely different place. You can do that anytime you want. You can add or subtract list items. As you add and subtract list items, you can choose whether to have them active all the time or not. That was that little checkbox in the list item itself. And then you can come in anytime you want to and change. Remember that I made one of these list items with a different tag? My tag was blue. It contains blue, or I think this one should definitely be and. Is active as yes. Okay, so I've changed this up a little bit. Let's see what the result is here. My tags will contain demo, or my tags will contain blue, and each one of those items has to be active. Let's see what that does for me. There we go. I was too restricted with the and comment. And so I'm not going to try to use that one. The terminology or the setting that you use between and or will make the difference between a successful edit and not, as you just saw. And also, as you just saw, if you come up and say, oops, that was wrong, it's real easy to go back and fix. Just try a different combination of and or to come up with what you need. So these will work the same, of course. This is the one we just added a minute ago. And it completely ignores the other item on the site or in the list. Because for whatever reason, that item is either inactive. In fact, we can go back to the list and look. That item is either inactive or it does not contain the demo tag. That should be what we find. So let's go to, so I don't mess up this page, I'm just going to flip tabs here. This is looking at the all site content of the help site. And I'm going to look at the carousel items list again. We see item number 2 is not active. In the is active column, no. And so it doesn't fit the mold that we cast for the web part to display item. You can see that at work. And when we first edited that, we had only demo as a tag, and that's why this was not include it, the one we just made, because its tag is different. Even though it was active, it didn't have the right tag. When we added the condition to include blue, that showed up, but number 2 did not because it's still inactive. So you can see the relationship between these list column values and the filtration that takes place back here on the home page when we are using the Carousel web part. And to make these changes happen, we just check in the page. And so now that has been published. We can go to the staging live home page. And now we can see that we've got the new list items represented here in the carousel. If we shrink the web browser down, tablet is probably going to be something about like that.
Okay.
And phone will be gone. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, this is Jesse. You showed us how to edit the carousel on a page that already had the web part on it. How would we add the carousel to a new page?
Oh, sure. Okay, let's see. This area here, this area here is your carousel area.
Okay.
And that's where you're going to want to choose that carousel web part. Mission statement area. And this is what we were just pointing to with the question about the responsive design and what happens to this area up at the top of the page. The mission statement area remains on the small screen. And so if we go into the page and open it for editing again, you can probably see that this is a rich text or rich content area. Anyway, it can be edited and formatted to a light degree. I would always consider that consider whether or not you want this to be a major portion of your site, because you can even put web parts in this section. It is a rich content area. Think about how you can best use this area of the page. It does not have to be your agency's mission statement. It certainly can be, but it can also be used for regular web content or announcements or what have you. And if you don't want it at all, that's easy too. All you have to do is select all that's in there and cut it. We'll check the page in and see what that does. Being jumpy today. Okay, now you can see that area has completely gone away, and we just have this little separator bar here to go between the image, the splash image, and the rest of the page. And so you don't even have to have that area displayed at all. whatever fits your needs the best. For my own purposes, I'm going to put it back in. Notice that I'm checking this page in a lot. Always keep in mind that SharePoint is a little different than the other Microsoft products that you're used to using. Save does not do exactly the same thing in SharePoint that it does in everything else you use. Save is a very private command. It's only good for you. And if somebody else comes in and overrides your checkout, all the work you did is gone. In order to make a hard save or a version that you can move back to or that will retain its changes for other users, you've got to check that page in. Check in is what you should be considering a save in SharePoint. Like I said, are just rich content areas. You can do anything you want with them. You can have text down here. You can have pictures down here. You can have web parts down here. You can embed material down here like calendars or map views of something. Some people use these areas for data.org.gov, embed, that kind of thing. These are just rich content areas. There's nothing special about them. So I'm not going to even touch those as far as homepage content goes. The last thing we'll talk about is the task boxes. First thing will be the images. How do we change an image in the task box heading? Well, by default, when you get your site delivered to you, you'll have these 370 by 206 placeholders here. And in order to change those, all we want to do is click on the placeholding image itself. And you'll notice that we have picture tools available to us just by clicking on that image area, any image area actually, will give us the picture tools. Now if I activate the picture tools design tab, you can see that I've got a normal set of picture tools here. And so I can either paste or type a picture location in here, or I can bring a new image in from SharePoint by moving to a site collection library, my site collection images. Again, these you might want to protect these from the images directory and put them in the site collection images. That's our recommendation, just to keep them out of the main flow of the site, just to protect, give one little layer of protection over them. Also, if you put them in a separate library, you can put an alert on that library so that if somebody does go making changes there, uploading new pictures or what have you, you can be alerted as a site collection owner or administrator that something is going on that you might want to be involved with. So to get a new image in here, all we got to do is, like any other, go to the library that it's in, and we click on the image that we want. It's represented here by the full URL. You can see tb-2.ping, tb-2. This is a thing image, and we know now that that's the image that will show up. We click OK, and lo and behold, we've got task box 2. There's because of the way this design was created, there's not much we can do about the blue bar at the bottom of these images or about the little link circle there that appears on the live page when we hover over the task box. So keep that in mind. Arrange your image so that your text is unaffected by the blue bar, or if you have the circle doesn't appear in some embarrassing or inappropriate or ugly manner on the page, and adjust your images accordingly that way. Again, these images should be 25K or less. The task box links are list-driven, and these are each an individual web part. Okay, now these web parts are list-driven, And so the first thing we ought to do is go take a look at the list. So going to, I better check this in. Using site actions and moving to the all site content, I see my task box items. This is the list that drives the task boxes on the homepage. You notice that these are different because those task items on the homepage, task box link items, were those were actually pointed, it looks like, to the parent site, and so we will change that and point it to this site in when we go back to the homepage. And again, these are just regular list items. If you're managing a homepage, you probably are familiar with the idea of managing list items. Each of these columns has its own job to do in this pairing of web part and list. Tags, same deal. As many tags as you need, but all separated by commas. And the active and inactive works the same. You'll notice here that some of these have more than one tag involved with them. That's how that is managed. The commas separate the tag names, and the web part will pull in based on your and or statement that we saw a few minutes ago. This is going to work very similarly to the carousel. Notice these are all task item 1, 2, 3, task item 1B, 2B, 3B, etc. So let's go look, and we've got demo, demo 2, and demo 3 for text. Okay. So let's go back to the home page and see how this list is going to interact. All the web part is going to do is filter the list items. Yeah, see, we've got a lot of these different ones here. And so let's open the page again for editing, and let's take this first task box and change it. Again, you can tell it's a web part. It's got the blue outline. It's got the drop-down arrow there. We're going to edit the web part. It's going to show up over here on the right-hand side. And again, we are most interested in query. Web part is going to show us items from this list, and right now, again, it's pointed to the site template, the top level, basically, list. And I'm going to change that. I want this one to point to my local list. And so browsing, I'm going to browse down into session. And tell it that I want the task box items list to be used for this particular web part. This will not affect my other web parts here. So you can separate these tags out, or these links out, pardon me, by using which list is it going to pull from, which task box list, and which site is it going to pull from. List type, these are all custom lists. Content type, I want all content types. It could be also list content types if you wanted. The default is all content types, which we can run with. All right, audience targeting. No, we don't need audience targeting. And audience targeting has to do with the old intranet history of SharePoint. And when we filter for an audience, we're looking for a particular permissions level or a particular group membership. And since we're giving this out to the public, it's not interested in that. It's what's called anonymous access. So our additional filters, this is where we're going to start here. And the initial one is going to be that our tags contain demo or tags contain about demo 3. And is active is set to yes. So I've set my filter up so that this task box, this number 1 task box, I'm expecting it to show me tags. Actually, I'm going to change because all of my tags contain demo. And so I'm going to actually change this and say that the tag is equal to demo, or the tag contains is okay for this one because demo 3 is unique. But all of them include demo, demo 2, and demo 3 include demo. And so that would actually bring in all 3 categories. I want just these 2 categories. So equal to demo or contains demo 3 and is marked as active in the list. Click OK, and the items in that list, that task box number 1 over here, should change for us. And now where we used to have items that looked like this, we now have the task item 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And if we compare that, I set that to include demo 3, which should give me more, and task item 3B. So that didn't quite work the way I expected it to. Let's find out why. Let's get it simple and see if I broke it, or see if it was just me being weird with my filter. Tag contains demo 3. We should get 4. Okay, demo 3. We have more with a sort order of 12, so it's going to go way down at the end. And then demo 3 is 2C, 1C, and 3B. There we go. According to the sort orders is how they're laid out. And so my filter just wasn't right for some reason. This is a good example or a good description of how these things are filtered for and then also how they're ordered. Regardless of where they show up in the list, you can see that the sort order takes precedence, and the higher the sort order, the lower on the list of links in the task box itself. And this is proof also that the filter actually does work. I just need more practice with it. And demo 3 links are the only ones that were displayed here in this task box. Each one of these task boxes is unique, so it can, each one of these can, should in fact have either a different list that it calls from or a different filter from the same list. Your lists can be as extensive as you want them to be, and simply filter for the tags in a particular list for a particular reason. Last thing we do is check in the page. And if we're all done with everything, we publish it. All right. What you should have learned today is to be able to manage your own splash images and figure out where to put those things and how to arrange them so that they are a little bit safer than in the general populous images library, and also what the limitations are. You should now be able to manage your carousel, edit your agency title. Again, that one doesn't come up very often, but when it does, it's nice to be able to do it. Be able to edit and use your mission statement section of your page successfully, and manage your task boxes. If anything, I hope that this was helpful in showing you the relationship between lists, the filtering of lists, and the web parts. It can be a little challenging, but in the end, you can get what you want if you just play with those and or statements a little bit and give it a few chances. Please remember that some of these features are going to require membership in a group that offers full access for your site. So keep those things in mind. As always, it's been a pleasure spending this time with you. I hope it's been helpful and informative. If you have any questions going forward, feel free to give the eGov Help Desk a call, 503-378-2126. More efficient than that is to email or use our service portal at egovservicedesk.zendesk.com. That'll automatically create a ticket for us. It'll get right in front of the right people, and we'll be able to serve you best through that portal. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for your time.